Hi, I'm Jeremy, and welcome to our latest episode of Recipes and Recollections. Now, as you watch this, you're probably wondering two main things. Number one, where is Megan? Don't worry, Megan is around and she will be handling all of our culinary concoctions this afternoon. Now, number two, you're probably wondering, Jeremy, what's with the giant cowboy mustache? Well, the reason I have a mustache is because this is a very special episode to me. This episode is actually a tribute to my dad, who always had a large, magnificent, spectacular mustache. Now, unfortunately, my dad passed away just 2 months ago, so what we're going to do today is take one of his favorite recipes and turn it into this month's episode of Recipes and Recollections. Now, my dad was never an official History Colorado volunteer, but he did help me with so many things throughout my time here at History Colorado. I've been here for over 6.5 years, and he provided a lot of guidance to me for the many projects I've worked on. And I want to share one story with you about the things he's helped me with. Now, back about 4 years ago now, I was down at El Pueblo History Museum. I was the education coordinator down there, and I was designing a field trip that had to do with archaeology. Now, if you've ever been down to El Pueblo History Museum, you've probably noticed next to the museum there's an actual archaeological dig where you could see the foundations of the original El Pueblo trading post. So as I was designing this field trip, I really wanted school children to be able to go into that dig site and do a mock dig of their own. And in order to do that, they needed sandboxes that they could sort of dig up some of the artifacts or types of artifacts you would find in the actual dig site. Now, unfortunately, we had just about a $0 budget to make that happen. And I found some sandboxes that were just perfect for the field trip. They even looked like adobe bricks. And I thought, I really need these, but we just don't have the money to get them. So what I did is I called my dad, and even before he answered the phone, I knew if I asked him, he would buy those for the museum. I asked, of course, he offered to buy 3 sandboxes. I think it came out to $300 or $400, and immediately donated them to the museum. So many school children over the last 4 or 5 years have actually used those, and those were all because of my dad. Now, for this episode, we're taking his Colorado sweet chili recipe, and we're going to turn it into a video. Now, this recipe was very special to him. He would actually enter his Colorado sweet chili into chili competitions. He won several first prizes for it. And even when he didn't win the first prize, he usually got at least fan favorite. So we're going to take his recipe and turn it into Recipes and Recollections this week. And in order to stay true to the Recipes and Recollections format, we are going to take some Jalapeno Cornbread from our Across Colorado cookbook. So this is sweet chili. Megan and I love spicy food, so we figured let's add a little spice. So we'll make our Colorado sweet chili, and we'll add some Jalapeno Cornbread. Should be great.
As usual, we'll start with the ingredients and then stick around at the end, and we'll learn a little bit about one of my dad's favorite restaurants in Denver, and also one of Denver's most historic restaurants, Breakfast King.
Cumin.
Pinto beans.
Black pepper.
Ground beef.
Garlic powder.
Cooners kidney beans. Now, my dad always loved Cooners. He moved to Idaho late in his life, and he would actually order Cooners by mail because they didn't have it at the grocery stores out in Boise. So we made sure to get Cooners this time, despite our, I don't know what the word is, our shock when we found out that Cooners, not as Colorado as you might think. You'll have to check out, I think, our buckhorn chili episode to find out about that.
Garlic.
Beef stock.
Paprika.
Diced tomatoes.
Chili powder.
Homemade Hamade homemade chili sauce. Now, it was very important that it was this brand too for my dad. His secret sweet chili sauce ingredient, homemade. I'm guessing it's homemade.
1 onion.
Bouillon, chicken bouillon cube. There must be a beef bouillon cube too.
Yeah. Cayenne pepper.
Coarse kosher salt. Oh yeah, I got that one down. And here's the ingredients for the Jalapeno Cornbread.
Jalapeno.
Shortening.
Cornmeal.
1 egg.
1 ear of corn. Or you could use canned corn.
Buttermilk.
Baking powder.
More coarse kosher salt.
Green chilies.
Sugar. Flour.
We are making Jeremy's dad's famous Colorado sweet chili. It's going to be delicious. It's not a very involved recipe, but you want to have lots of time for it to simmer and for the ingredients to really come together and all the flavors to develop. I have my pots. This is just a big soup pot. If you had a big Dutch oven, that would work, but really any large pot would be fine. We're gonna start with our onions. So our recipe calls for 3/4 of a yellow sweet onion. So I'm gonna chop this up. I always cry, especially if it's a fresh onion. If you have a big onion, I would recommend doing 3/4. This one is a little on the small side, so I'm actually just gonna do all of it. You know, people that are a little hesitant about onions, like Jeremy is, like Jeremy's dad. You know, this
Do not put onions in my Taco Bell bean burrito.
Yes, very important.
I will throw it in the trash.
But especially when you're doing like a soup or a chili or a stew or something, usually your onions are gonna be the first things that go in, and so they're gonna get tons of time to cook. And so it really takes that like raw onion flavor out. Oh no, I'm crying. Just give a little chop on my cutting board. Into nice, even-sized pieces. Try not to get any on the floor.
Why are you not using your vegetable chopper?
Oh, I should have. Well, I don't know if it has a fine enough blade. Like, I forgot about
Your full-star vegetable chopper.
I think I just wanted a blade smaller than that.
Oh yeah. Game changer.
Yeah, this thing is very handy.
This was a Christmas gift. Megan saw it, didn't even see it coming. I didn't even know she knew something like this existed, but I found it on Amazon and the reviews said life-changing utensil, and I thought life changer for $16.95. What a steal! But you put your vegetables or fruits. Yeah, I mean like an apple.
Do a fruit.
Yeah,
You could do an
fruits in
apple.
there, and then schmat. Oh, and then you got it all down here. Game changer right there, especially for salads.
Really handy for salads. So you can do bell peppers, cucumbers, all sorts of things.
For our friend Nick Potter,
Shout out.
huh?
Yeah.
Chef extraordinaire Simon, Christmas present. Think about it.
I don't think you can see me, but I'm peeling some garlic. So we have our onion chopped. The next thing we're gonna prep is to chop our garlic.
It's one thing I've never said. This is too garlicky.
Yeah, has anyone ever said that?
I don't think anyone's ever said that in
No
the
one
history
ever.
of the world.
Maybe a vampire.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually going to use my garlic press. But you know, you can just fine mince it. It would also be great. It says heaping, so I'm gonna do like 3 cloves probably. We'll just see. Every clove is a different size. They're like snowflakes. Every garlic clove is unique and beautiful. But did you like grow up with your dad making this?
This
or
is
is this like a
actually,
newer?
it's newer, yeah, it's slightly different. He had a different recipe he did in a crock pot growing up most of the time. I have that recipe too, but when he started doing competitions, he switched more to this recipe, I think to differentiate from the other chilies. Because usually in those chili competitions, people go as spicy as they can.
Yeah.
A lot of 5-alarm chili entries and stuff like that. So he kind of went the opposite direction to make it different than the rest of the competitors.
One thing I think is cool just about cooking in general, but especially since we're making, you know, your dad's recipe, is just thinking like how many great recipes we get from like family. Like I feel like that's just like the heart of like, I mean most recipes, right? Even all the recipes in our cookbook, and like they come from, most of the time, from somebody's house, right? Somebody's home kitchen, and it's evolved and changed over time. And I just think that's really cool. All right, so we have our pot. We're gonna do 1 tablespoon of olive oil. There we go. Again, my brand of choice is Lucchini. It's great. But whatever olive oil you have is fine.
What if you don't have olive oil? Is there...
Ooh, if you don't have olive oil, I think this would work fine with vegetable oil or canola oil, like a neutral oil. All right, and we're gonna turn this on like medium high, or maybe like medium. It does not say. So, you know, just use your best judgment. Because this does not have specific, like, heat instructions. So we're going to kind of just eyeball it, but I think it should be fine. Our oil is getting warm. We're going to add in our onion and let that saute for a little bit. I love the smell of onions and garlic cooking. We'll put our garlic in next, but it always smells so good. All right, so our onion is sizzling really nice. I'm going to add our minced garlic. We don't want to have the garlic sauteing for too long because since we minced it, it's in really small pieces and they can burn pretty quickly. So we are going to add our other ingredients. Now we're going to add our beef. This recipe calls for 2 pounds of ground beef. I like 80-20 because it has more fat, but if you prefer a leaner ground beef, you know, that's up to you. But if you're staying true to Steve and you're staying true to me, you would get 80-20.
And we actually have 2.43 pounds of ground beef because Meg absolutely hates correcting the butcher.
No, I don't.
She does not want to ask them to put anything back. So our butcher yesterday, when we went and got the ingredients, he went in for it, he grabbed it, he weighed it, 2.43. Immediately Meg is like, it's fine, it's fine.
You know why? Because I think it's weird when they put it back. I don't like that.
She'll also never send back food.
I did one time.
At a restaurant. There was one time.
One time,
and we had to talk her into it because she had raw salmon, and it was not a sushi place. It was not a sushi place.
This is at an Irish pub place.
And I do not recommend for anyone, much less Megan, to eat raw sushi at an Irish, or raw fish at an Irish pub.
Irish sushi.
Even then, she's like, it's fine.
I was like, I'll just eat around the raw parts.
The whole thing was raw.
Then the next thing we're gonna do is add this homemade chili sauce. We found this at Safeway. You can order it online if you want to use this specific brand, which I would recommend. I think this is probably
I think that was really important to the recipe.
part of what makes it sweet. Can you come open this? Jeremy's got his dad's old shirt on too. so maybe don't spill.
There we go.
Okay.
Was not a King Soopers.
Yeah.
We're usually a King Soopers family.
So we put our ground beef in, and then now we're gonna put in our chili sauce. This is a 12-ounce jar, so we're gonna, and it calls for 12 ounces of this, so we're using the whole jar. And then now we're gonna add 15 ounces of beef broth or stock, and mix, mixy mix. So to recap what's in here, we've got our onion and garlic simmering or sauteing with our olive oil. We added in our ground beef, we added in our chili sauce and our beef stock or broth. And what we're gonna do is let this simmer for 30 minutes. So I'm gonna put a timer, and then what we'll do is start to add some spices, let it simmer more, make some cornbread, and it's gonna be great. Our sweet chili has been simmering for 30 minutes. And now what we're gonna do is add a bunch of our spices. First thing we're gonna do is 2 tablespoons of chili powder. And then we're gonna do half a tablespoon of cumin. All right, and next we're gonna do 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. We're also going to do 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of cayenne, half of a teaspoon of black pepper, and then 1 chicken bouillon cube. So now we're gonna just mix this all up. Mix all your spices into the meat. I am using a pot from Great Jones, which is a really cool female-owned company.
Ooh, and then at Great Jones too, they let you engrave your own lid. So, can you read that?
Probably.
It says, soup, there it is. Not only 90s kids will get it. And Steve Lupke. Those guys, speaking of which, what is the name of the people who sang Whoop, there it is? They were from Denver.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll look it up.
All right, so just to recap, we have our chili powder, cumin, garlic powder, salt, cayenne, black pepper, and 1 of the chicken bouillon cubes all mixed up in here. It's still simmering. I am gonna put the lid on this, and this is going to simmer for 1 hour.
Tag Team is the band that made Whoop, there it is, a hit in the 90s, and they actually met at Manual High School in 1982.
So our sweet chili is going to simmer for an hour. This is a really good time to make something to accompany our chili. And what pairs better with chili than cornbread? So we are going to make jalapeno cornbread from across Colorado. Oh no, I lost my bookmark. So for our cornbread, first step, we're gonna preheat our oven to 400 degrees. Done. Well, it's doing it. It's going. In this recipe,
Remember how long our old oven
oh my gosh. Yeah.
preheat? You had to start like before you left for work in the morning.
Good thing for y'all that we are not filming this in our old apartment, because the oven in that apartment would take so long to preheat. Like, I had to think so far ahead. For this cornbread recipe, there's one thing I'm doing a little tiny bit different. This calls for a half cup of whole kernel corn drained. So that makes me assume that it's canned corn, which I am not a huge fan of, personally. How do you feel about canned corn?
It makes me think of old baseball announcers, because when there used to be a pop fly, they used to say, oh, it's a can of corn. And what they were referencing was old grocery store shelvers. In order to get corn off the top shelf, they'd have to knock it down and catch it.
Oh, wow, that's a very specific
Yeah,
bread.
that's what canned corn reminds me of. But I prefer corn on the cob.
You can use canned corn if you like it, or I think frozen corn would work fine. What I'm gonna do just really quick is shuck this, cut all the kernels off, and just kind of saute them in a pan just to kind of pre-cook them a little bit to get them a little softened up, and then we'll include that into our cornbread. But again, you could use canned corn if that's what you can find. I'm gonna do fresh corn.
This is Meg really getting back to her roots right here. She was sadly not born in Colorado.
I was hoping that would never come up,
Meg,
but I'm actually not a native.
To her very great shame, she was born in Des Moines.
It's not that shameful. I just got corn all over the floor. So I'm just gonna kind of warm this corn up a little bit, just so it's not like so raw. And then we will mix all of our other ingredients together for our cornbread.
Really, Meg, she didn't live in Iowa that long.
I don't even remember living in Iowa.
Yeah, she was only, well, you were 4 or something when you moved?
When we moved, I think I was like 1.
So that doesn't even count.
Yeah, well, counts to some people. Yeah, so it was like, we lived in Iowa for like a year, maybe a year and a half, and then we moved, I think, but then we moved to Wichita, and my brother was born in Wichita, and he's only 2 years
Wait,
younger.
Luke's from Kansas?
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, he was born in Wichita.
So I gotta buy him a record like Wichita Lineman.
Wichita lineman is still on the line.
He doesn't remember living in Wichita because we moved
Oh, thank
to
goodness. He'd have been traumatized.
Because we moved to Pueblo when I was like 5, I think. So we moved in like 98.
So wait, not only were you born in Iowa, you lived in Kansas?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. That's what you're supposed to do if you live in Colorado, right?
Judge people for not being born here.
Yeah, that's the Colorado pastime is
Yeah.
criticizing people for stuff they had no control over.
We're also gonna get a bowl out where we're gonna mix everything. What I'm gonna do right now is grease this pan. This calls for an 8x8 by 2.
Ooh, it says a little fun fact in the recipe here. The old plantation restaurant in Estes Park served this cornbread with its black bean soup during the years that it was a popular eatery for both tourists and locals.
So we're going to start mixing some stuff for our cornbread. We're doing 1 cup of flour. We're gonna do 3/4 cup of cornmeal. Then we're gonna do 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1 tablespoon of sugar. I think you don't like it because it's like savory. It's like a sweet bread, but masquerading as a savory bread.
Yeah, it's a bread of lies.
You're still gonna eat it. 1 teaspoon of salt. So to recap, we have a cup of flour, 3/4 cup of cornmeal, a tablespoon of baking powder, a tablespoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of salt. So that's all of our dry ingredients. And I'm gonna get a whisk and mix this together. All right, so we have our dry stuff in here. We are going to add 1 egg. It says unbeaten, so I'm just gonna crack it into this bowl. So 1 egg, and then 1 cup of buttermilk. Now, onto the fun/interesting part. We're gonna do 3 tablespoons of shortening. So we're gonna do 3 tablespoons. I'm going to put it into a little bowl, and we're gonna microwave it to melt it. While that's melting, I'm going to stir my egg and my buttermilk into this mixture. Just as until lightly mixed. So that a little mix. Just to kind of break up that egg yolk, mix in the buttermilk. We've got our flour, cornmeal, all of our dry ingredients. And then we mixed in 1 egg and that cup of buttermilk. Now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna pour in these 3 tablespoons of melted shortening. I just melted this in the microwave. Beautiful. So I added the shortening, and then we're also going to add half a cup of corn. And then the last thing is half a cup of diced green chilies. So I have this jar of green chili. This is actually a New Mexico brand called 505, which you've probably seen at the grocery store. But my aunt gave it to me. She lives in Albuquerque, so they buy this brand a lot. And she put the Pueblo zip code on here instead. Because 505 is the like Albuquerque, New Mexico, not zip code, area code. There we go. 505 is the area code for a lot of New Mexico. But since we always tease them about how hatch chili and Pueblo green chili, you know, they're always competing against each other, she thought it'd be funny to put a sticker that said 719, which is the Pueblo area code. So it's 719 chili. This is going into our greased pan. I'm just gonna spread it out so it's nice and even on all sides. I'm gonna just slice some jalapenos, and this is more for presentation, just for it to look cool. So now that this is done, it's going to go into our oven for 30 minutes or until golden brown. So I'm gonna maybe do like 26, 27, and then check on it and see where it's at. Our super squeaky oven door. So I'm gonna do 26 minutes just to kind of see. Sometimes our oven runs a little hot. So we're gonna let that cook. We got about 15 more minutes on this simmer, and then we're gonna add in some more spices and our beans and tomatoes, and then do one final simmer, and then we can eat our chili. So I'm gonna recruit some help to clean up all of this. All right. This has been simmering for 1 hour. And in that time, we worked on our cornbread, so that's in the oven. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a few more spices. They're all spices we've already put in here, but just to give it a little bit more kick of flavor. And then we're gonna put in our beans and tomatoes. So we're gonna do another 2 tablespoons of chili powder, half a tablespoon of cumin, what else? And 1 teaspoon of paprika. Yeah, on this recipe from Jeremy's dad, we weren't really sure if we should keep the bean liquid, the bean juice. But I think since there's not a ton of liquid in here, you know, from earlier, I think it'll be great. So we're gonna do 2 cans of kidney beans. These are the dark red ones. So those are 2 of the 15-ounce cans. And then we're also going to do our pinto beans. Ooh yeah, got our beans. And then we are gonna do just 1 can of diced tomatoes. We want it to simmer, but we don't want it to be getting too hot on the bottom. All right, our sweet chili is all done. It looks and smells great. Everything's really like thick and rich. And so we spooned some out. We're gonna have our cornbread, which also turned out great. It's a little spicy and sweet, and I think it'll go great with the chili. So we're really excited to eat it in honor of Steve.
I hope you enjoyed my dad's Colorado sweet chili as much as I always do. Now, as a final tribute to him for this video, I'd like to learn a little bit about one of his very favorite restaurants. He was born and raised in Denver, lived most of his life in Denver, and as a kid, I remember him always taking us to Breakfast King. After he moved to Idaho, he would periodically come back, and that was the first thing we usually did. He'd say, let's go to Breakfast King, where he'd almost always order the Toro pot. Now let's learn a little bit about Breakfast King, my dad's favorite restaurant.
Located at the corner of Santa Fe Drive and Mississippi Avenue, the Breakfast King has been the crown jewel of Denver diners for over 4 decades. Inside, restaurant customers are transported into a Quentin Tarantino film as they're greeted by 70s-style orange vinyl booths and classic wood paneling. Locals are referred to by name by wisecracking servers who'd happily bring you dinner just as well as breakfast. Of course, it offers all the morning staples: eggs, bacon, hash browns, and my favorite, their pork chops. But the King is more famous for its spicy Toro pot and its melt-in-your-mouth country fried steak. Gallons of gravy and green chili course through the arteries of Breakfast King patrons. Its oversized portions ensure leftovers, and its endless supply of piping hot coffee guarantees you never leave disappointed. Repeatedly named one of Denver's best, accolades from well-known news outlets plaster the walls. No tour of the Denver food scene is complete without a visit to this mile-high staple. Open 24 hours a day since 1975, BK has been an oasis of comfort food, and for me, and many other Denverites, a place filled with priceless memories.